this is something that I think means different things to different people, but for the most part, what I want to try to stress to you today is that whoa means whoa. And that magic word that we all use, most every one of us use with our horses, should mean that we want to stop what we're doing. And to Western people, reiners, that might mean a sliding stop. English, that might mean come to a stop. But regardless of what your theory is on when you want your horse to stop, I want to give you some principles today to try to talk to you about how to make this an easier thing. So today we're going to go through a couple exercises to show you what stopping is with young horses and how it progresses into working with our older horses too. With stopping, I want you to think about three things. There's three signals or three cues that I want to teach my horses to stop, because I always want to have a backup plan if one of them doesn't work. When you go show a horse, a lot of times the crowd might get in the way of him hearing you say whoa, so he needs a couple other things that tell him to stop. So I think of it in progression: sit, whoa, and then stop or pull stop. And I want to do all three of those things sequentially, so that there's a consistency factor in what I do. So what I mean by that is, and this is probably the biggest fault that we have with riders and not getting their horses to stop, is that we teach this horse to go by using our leg and kicking or using a spur or whatever to get going forward. And then when we want the horse to stop, we simply pull on the reins and keep our legs on this horse. So when we keep our legs on and keep our spurs dug in, we're pull stopping and asking this horse to stop manually, but we're sending mixed signals. We're pushing with our legs and we're pulling with our hands. So what I want to do when I say sit is that I'm riding forward, and when I sit, I let my legs off and I sit deeper into the saddle. So if you see my leg here, this would be more engaged and in contact and pushing this horse forward. And when I'm ready to stop, I'm riding my horse, and the first thing I do is sit. And that release of that leg tells that horse to quit driving forward, or should. In the beginning, on a young horse, he doesn't know what that means. So the next thing I do is say the magic word, which is whoa. You can say whatever word you like as long as you say it consistently. Mine is whoa. And so I sit, nothing happens. I say whoa, nothing happens, maybe. And then last but not least, stop. Okay? If I do that sequentially every time I'm asking this horse to stop, eventually what's going to happen is, as soon as I let my legs off, he's going to stop. Okay? And then, a lot of people even add a backup to that. I do that too. So I get my horses stopping, and then I start backing them up. So eventually what happens is whoa actually means to get backwards. So when I open my leg and say whoa, they think about backing up. You got to stop and hustle to get backwards if you're jogging or loping or going faster. So think about those three things. I'll show you here just kind of quickly at a walk what can happen. So in the beginning, I might just ride up here to walk, say, let my leg off, nothing happens. I say whoa, maybe he stops. And then I back up a step or two, and then I sit here. Okay. The other thing I can tell you, a big problem I see with a lot of people I ride with or teach clinics with, is once they get to this point, they say whoa and the horse stops, they immediately kick them forward and go do something else. One of the things that will help tremendously is getting the point across to the horse that when you stop and stand here, you get a break. Most horses want a break, and so when they get to stand here and not do anything, that is more appealing for them next time when they hear the word whoa or get pulled on to stop, because they know a break's coming. So be consistent with that. So eventually, once I'm consistent and over time, what I'm going to be able to get out of my horse is staying on a loose rein. I drive him forward with my legs. I sit, and he comes back to me right there. So he knows right off the sit cue that he's got to stop. And if I leave my leg open, he's going to back up. Or I can leave my leg on and say, whoa, and he stops. Okay, so I've got those two cues together, and then I can also pull and get him to stop. So just those three things in itself, I've got three cues, but I'm always consistent. Let my leg off, sit deep, say whoa, and pull stop. I want to show you an exercise, especially with young horses. I start them all. The first thing I do when I start riding a young horse is guiding around the pen, and then when I want to stop, I don't pull on them. A lot of people say, well, you got to be able to stop them. I want to be able to guide them more than I really care about stopping them in the beginning. And so if I've got control of this horse, I guide around here to walk or jog or even elope. I want to teach him eventually that when I say whoa, he's going to have to stop without me pulling on him. This is the very beginning thing. If I get that point across, then stopping is going to be easier. And then I go back and start to put put the pull on them a little bit. And we're talking about young horses in that instance. So I'm going to go over to the fence here and show you that exercise too. Okay, this is an exercise I like to do with young horses, teaching them how to stop without having to pull on their face. A 2-year-old doesn't understand what pulling on his face means necessarily, and you can create some bad things with a young horse trying to pull on them hard. And so what I like to do is try to teach them to be soft and try to teach them that stopping is not a big deal. So I work a circle, a big circle here next to a fence, and I like to use that fence to help me. And what I'll do, I'll show you here in just a second, but what I'm going to do is you're going to see me ride a big circle at a jog, or you can start at a walk. But I'll usually start at a jog or a lope. And then when I get to this position on the fence, my circle's out here, and I get back to this position, not flat with the fence, not T-bone to the fence, but kind of at an angle with the fence like I'm at in this position. Then as I ride through that circle, fence is right here, I'm just going to sit and say whoa to the young horse. He doesn't know what that means yet, so he may keep going forward. But instead of having to rake on his face and pull him hard, all I'm simply going to do is take that inside rein towards the fence, outside rein, sorry, towards the fence, and pull his nose back to the fence. And in doing so what I'm trying to get him to do is use that fence, compress without having to pull on him, and go through a few times. And every time I do that, sit, whoa, nothing happens, pull his nose back to the fence. Eventually, he knows that I'm going to have to pull on him to change direction, and his feet are going to come to a stop. When I say whoa and his feet come to a stop, then I'm not going to turn at that point. I'm going to just release, sit there, pat him, tell him good boy, and be happy that the word whoa meant something in that instance. So I'll show you over here in this exercise, and maybe it'll show up and maybe make you understand exactly what I'm trying to talk about. So with the stopping exercise there, you can see that around the 4th or 5th time we came to the fence, the horse stopped, and that's when we release and stand there. Don't be afraid to take a lot of break there, 20, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it takes. And then when you progress, the next step to that whole exercise is to start doing those things out here in the middle of the arena instead of on the wall. And eventually what you'll find is when you say, whoa, your horse is starting to stop. With that 2-year-old, then you can progress into working on his face and getting him flexible and soft in the bit so that eventually when you do pull on him, there is some response there instead of, in the beginning, if I try to pull on a 2-year-old, there won't be any response to his face. But I can still really quickly get him to start stopping his feet and so teaching him how to stop. I hope those quick exercises help you. The key to everything we do is being consistent, and remember, sit first, say whoa second, and then pull on the last. That way you always got the progression right, and the consistency factor will make your horse want to stop for you.